I'm back. See, look at me, already doing good, already doing my thing. Back again with part 2. I'm still on James Baldwin. I didn't want to short you guys, even though I do want to give you like a variety of things. I didn't want to short you on this, and because I don't give James Baldwin a lot of opportunity, I wanted to come back and give a part 2 and give it more from that letter. I don't think I'll finish it all, so I'm also going to link the PDF so you can kind of catch up on your own and do your own research. But yeah, basically that's what I'm doing. Anyway, if you don't know me and you're new here, I'm Brianka J. This is my page. We talk all things books, from analysis to short stories to essays. We get into all types of theories of thoughts, all cultures, all ideas. Like, it's very inclusive. But of course, it is Black History Month here in the U.S. I am a Black woman in the U.S., so I don't get excited about very many holidays. You won't see me get excited about very many holidays, but this one. If you like that, you think you won't be around here, be my friend and keep up with me, hit the smash that subscribe button, please. And thank you, because y'all been taking so long to do it. I didn't have to get a job and everything. And of course, if I gotta go to work, I can't really be here to share all things books with you guys. It's free. Smash the button. Without further ado, let's jump in where we left off. So, it is certainly sad that awakening of one's senses should lead to such a merciless judgment of oneself, to say nothing of the time and anguish one spends in the effort to arrive at any other. But it is also inevitable that a literal attempt to mortify the flesh should be made among Black people, like those with whom I grew up. Negroes in this country, and Negroes do not strictly or legally speaking exist in any other, are taught really to despise themselves from the moment their eyes open on the world. The world is white and they are Black. White people hold the power, which means that they are superior to Blacks. Intrinsically, that is. God decreed it so. And the world was had innumerable ways of making this difference known and felt and feared. Long before the Negro child perceives this difference, and even longer before he understands it, he has begun to react to it. He has begun to be controlled by it. Every effort made by the child's elders to prepare him for a fate from which they cannot protect him causes him secretly, in terror, to begin to wait. Without knowing that he is doing so, his mysterious, inexorable punishment, he must be good, not only in order to please his parents, and not only to avoid being punished by them. Behind their authority stands another, nameless and impersonal, infinitely harder to please, and bottomlessly cruel. And this filters into the child's consciousness through his parents' tone of voice as he is being exhorted, punished, or loved. In the sudden, uncontrollable note of fear, heard his mother or his father's voice when he has strayed beyond some particular boundary. He does not know what the boundary is, and he can get no explanation of it, which is frightening enough. But the fear he hears in his voices of his elders is more frightening still. The fear that I heard in my father's voice, for example, when he realized that I really believed I could do anything a white boy could do and had every intention of proving it, was not at all like the fear I heard when one of us was ill or had fallen down the stairs or stayed too far from the house. It was another fear. A fear that the child, in channeling the white world assumptions, was putting himself in the path of destruction. A child cannot, thank heaven, know how vast and how merciless is the nature of power, with what unbelievable cruelty people treat each other. He reacts to the fear of his parents. Voices, because his parents hold up the world for him and he has no protection without them. I defended myself, as I imagined, against the fear my father made me feel by remembering that he was very old-fashioned. Also, I prided myself on the fact that I already knew how to outwit him. To defend oneself against the fear is simply to ensure that one will one day be conquered by it. Fears must be faced. As for one's wits, it is just not true that one can live by them. Not, that is, if one wishes really to live. That summer, in any case, all the fears with which I had grown up, and which were now part of me and controlled my vision of the world, rose up like a wall between the world and me, and drove me into the church. I dated the slow, crumbling, of my faith, the pulverization of my fortress. From the time about a year after I had begun to preach, when I began to read again, I justified this desire by the fact that I was still in school, and I began fatally with Dostoevsky. By this time, I was in high school that was predominantly Jewish. This meant that I was surrounded by people who were by definition beyond any hope of salvation, who laughed at the tracts and leaflets I brought to school, and who pointed out that the Gospels had been written long after the death of Christ. This might not have been so distressing if it had not forced me to read the tracts and leaflets myself, for they were indeed, unless one believed their message already, impossible to believe. I remember feeling dimly that there was a kind of blackmail in it. People, I felt, ought to love the Lord because they loved him, and not because they were afraid of going to hell. I was forced reluctantly to realize that the Bible itself had been written by men. They were afraid of going to hell. I was forced, written by men and translated by men out of languages I could not read. And I was already, without quite admitting it to myself, terribly involved with the effort of putting words on paper. Of course, I had the rebuttal ready. These men had all been operating under divine inspiration. Had they? All of them? And I also knew by now, alas, far more about divine inspiration than I dared admit. For I knew how I worked myself up into my own visions, and how divine inspiration frequently, indeed incessantly, the visions God granted me differed from the visions he granted to my father. I did not understand the dreams I had at night, but I knew that they were not holy. For that matter, I knew that my waking hours were far from holy. I spent most of my time in a state of repentance for things I had vividly desired to do but had not done. The fact that I was dealing with Jews brought the whole question of color, which I had been desperately avoiding, into the terrified center of my mind. I realized that the Bible had been written by white men. I knew that according to many Christians, I was a descendant of Ham, who had been cursed, and that I was therefore predestined to be a slave. This had nothing to do with anything I was, or contained, or could become. My fate had been sealed forever from the beginning of time. And it seemed, indeed, when one looked out over Christendom, that this was what Christendom effectively believed. My best friend in high school was a Jew. He came to our house once, and afterward my father asked, as he had asked about everyone, "Is he a Christian?" By which he meant, "Is he saved?" I really do not know whether my answer came out of innocence or venom, but I said coldly, "No, he's Jewish." My father slammed me across the face with his great palm, and in that moment, everything flooded back. All the hatred and all the fear and all the depth of merciless resolve to kill my father rather than allow my father to kill me. And I knew that all those sermons and tears and all that repentance and rejoicing had changed nothing. I wondered if I was expected to be glad that a friend of mine or anyone was to be tormented forever in hell. And I also thought, suddenly, of the Jews in another Christian nation, Germany. They were not so far from the fiery furnace after all, and my best friend might have been one of them. I told my father, "He's a better Christian than you are," and walked out of the house. The battle between us was in the open, but that was all right. It was almost a relief. A more deadly struggle had begun. The white man's heaven, sings a black Muslim minister, is the black man's hell. One may object possibly that this puts the matter somewhat too simply. But the song is true, and it has been true for as long as white men have ruled the world. The Africans put it another way. When the white man came to Africa, the white man had the Bible and the African had the land. But now it's the white man who is being reluctantly and bloodily separated from the land, and the African who is still attempting to digest or to vomit up the Bible. The struggle, therefore, that now begins in the world is extremely complex, involving the historical role of Christianity in the realm of power, that is, politics, and in the realm of morals. In the realm of power, Christianity has operated with an unmitigated arrogance and cruelty, necessarily, since a religion ordinarily imposes on those who have discovered the true faith and the spiritual duty of liberating the infidels. This particular true faith, moreover, is more deeply concerned about the soul than it is about the body, to which the fact that the flesh and the corpses of countless infidels bears witness. It goes without saying, then, that whomever questions the authority of the true faith also contests the right of the nations that hold this faith to rule over them. Contests, in short, their title to his land. The spreading of the gospel, regardless of the motives of the integrity or the heroism or some of the missionaries, was an absolutely indispensable justification for the planting of the flag. Priests and nuns and school teachers helped to protect and sanctify the power that was so ruthlessly being used by people who were indeed seeking a city, but not one in the heavens, and one to be made very definitely by captive hands. The Christian church itself, again as distinguished from some of its ministers, sanctified and rejoiced in the conquest of the flag and encouraged, if it did not formulate, the belief that conquest, with the resulting relative well-being of the Western populations, was proof of the favor of God. God had come a long way from the desert, but then so had Allah, though a very different direction. God, going north and rising on the wings of power, had become white, and Allah, out of power and on the dark side of heaven, had become, for all practical purposes anyway, black. Thus, in the realm of morals, the role of Christianity has been, at best, ambivalent, even leaving out account the remarkable arrogance that assumed that the ways and morals of others were inferior to those of Christians, and that they therefore had every right and could use any means to change them. The collision between cultures and the schizophrenia of the minds of Christendom had rendered the domain of morals as chartless as the sea once was, and as treacherous as the sea still is. It is not too much to say that whoever wishes to become a truly moral human being, and let us not ask whether or not this is possible, I think we must believe that it is possible, must first divorce himself from all the prohibitions, crimes, and hypocrisies the Christian church. If the concept of God has any validity or any use, it can only be to make us larger, freer, and more loving. If God cannot do this, it is time we got rid of him. All right. So I hope you guys enjoyed this installment of my Black History segment. If you did, make sure you smash that subscribe button, comment, and like the video. It helps the algorithm know that people are out here reading books and talking about books with their peers. And I just want to thank you again for being here and being a part of this with me. You guys don't even know how happy I am when I'm able to show up and share all the things that I just truly feel passionate about. Anyway, that's all I got for you. I will talk to you tomorrow.